Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker, a real estate investor helping you realize your dreams of owning a home or investing in one. Well, as I explained to you guys on a couple of videos, I'm in my 50s. So I am really looking into retirement and taking it a little bit more seriously. It has come to my attention, though, that there are a number of different options that have come up on the table that I'm considering. Okay, so I wanted to also share my findings with you in case you find yourself in the same situation. What I found is there is something called slow travel. Okay, and then you have snowbirds. All right, so let me discuss what is slow travel. Slow travel is what a number of retirees are doing. And actually, to be honest, some people don't even wait until they're retired to do this. Some people who want to leave their job early and be financially free, they are also joining the slow travel bandwagon. So what is it? It's when they sell everything that they have. The house, the furniture, their clothes, not all of their clothes, they keep a few, of course, so that they can actually travel the world. Some are expats, some are not. Some still keep their U.S. passport when they are traveling. And what they do is they normally spend a month or two in different countries. Okay, they basically live off of investments in stocks, crowdfunded real estate ventures, that kind of thing. And they also depend heavily on points and miles. Now, there is one particular person, Stephanie Perry. She kind of does slow travel, but it's a little bit different. See, she doesn't pay to necessarily go to Airbnbs or hotels. She's a house sitter. So people pay her to go and stay in the house, maybe feed the pets, take care of the plants, take care of the lawn, that sort of thing, while they are away wherever in another country doing whatever it is that they're doing, right? So what is also nice about her way is that she probably uses the travel expenses as a tax deduction because it's part of her business, right? She has to go sometimes from one country to another in order to take care of somebody's house, right? So that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. All right. So I was like, wow, that is pretty cool. Now, I'm not sure if that type of lifestyle honestly would fit me. I personally would not want to give up my clothes or anything like that. I wouldn't really necessarily want to even give up my house at this particular moment in time. Okay, but it is a consideration. It is a thought. It is an option, a viable option. Okay, now let me move over to snowbirds. What is a snowbird? A snowbird normally does have a home. They normally will not sell the home that they have. They will buy another home somewhere else. Okay, now what some of them do is while they're living in one home in one place, like New York, for example, they'll rent out the other home in Georgia, for example. They stay in New York in the summer because our summers actually can be quite hot. All right. We have been dealing with a heat wave up here And this is not the first summer that we've had a heat wave. All right. But basically, you stay up here in the summer, and then in the winter, when it starts to snow, you go down south to Georgia or, some other warm climate. That's basically what a snowbird has. A snowbird is. And a snowbird normally has two homes. There are some snowbirds that have more than two homes. And basically, they may Airbnb it. They may not rent out the whole house. They may rent out just a portion of the house, just so that they could have that particular income coming in. They're not as constantly on the go as a slow traveler, because a slow traveler is someone who hops from one country to the next country to the next country to the next. You understand me? So when it comes to developing community or being connected to a community, a slow traveler, 9 times out of 10, they don't have that. Unless they after they go to a certain number of countries, decide to go back and stay in that same neighborhood they were before, they might. And that's only, honestly, if they were in an Airbnb, not if they were in a hotel. Meanwhile, a snowbird normally has multiple communities. They'll have 2 communities that they can interact with, because they normally depend on their neighbors, sometimes, not always, but they normally depend on their neighbors for some assistance, for some help. Some of them, a few, may even get a property manager. Some of them also will buy property to make sure that it's in an HOA development and that certain things are taken care of while they're in the other home somewhere else. But of course, when one does it, they got to be careful, because there are some HOAs that don't approve of snowbirding at all. Just like you have some HOAs that don't approve of Airbnbs, right? So it is something that, you really do have to look at your life and look to see, okay, will this fit you or won't this fit you? The other thing that snowbirds do is they look to see if they should keep their primary residence, or if they should file and say that their primary residence is somewhere else, like in another state where the property taxes are cheaper, or where the income and everything else, income taxes and what have you, is cheaper. That's another thing to consider, right? It's not always easy to do when you still have your home in the other state, but it can be done. You would just have to apply for it. Sometimes, like if you have a car, you have to make sure that the title is in the other state's name and not in the state that you don't want to be your primary residence, so that this way you can pay lower taxes. Some people, what they do is they also change the title on the home. They may put their home inside of an LLC, right? So that this way, and that LLC might be registered in a different state. That's another way to go about it as well. And then, of course, you would have to register to vote in the other state. You would have to change your mail. You would also have to make sure your, medical records, insurance, things like that are allocated appropriately, so that this way it'll be a smooth transition when you become a snowbird. Now, there are some snowbirds, honestly, that don't even do all of that. They just have, more than one property. And some of them don't own more than one. Like, for example, I have an aunt. She lives in Florida, right? but she only lives in Florida in the winter. In the summer, she moves to Toronto. We have family in Toronto. She stays with family. So she didn't even buy another house. She just lives, with them. They have big houses up there. So that's where she goes. And I know of another lady, I believe I met her in church. She lives in New York, but in the wintertime, she goes down to Barbados. She stays there for 3 months or so, and then she comes back to New York. She would still be considered a snowbird, believe it or not. The other thing, as far as your primary residence and making that change, you have to look, because each state has a different requirement as far as how many months you have to live there in order for you to say, this is my primary residence. There are some states where 3 months, 4 months, and you're good. Other states, you got to stay there for 6 months in order for you to claim that state as being your permanent residence. All right. So when I look at the two, snowbirding and slow travel, I'm really more leaning towards snowbirding than slow travel, because even though I love to travel, having to pick up every single month and go somewhere, or even every 2 months, whatever, that is just too much for me. I would like to just be in one place for 6 months and then go someplace else for 6 months. Or like the shortest for me would be 3 months. I really wouldn't like to keep moving like that and then having to sell all my stuff. And then what about the stuff that I can't sell, or wouldn't be wise to sell? I would have to do what? Put it in storage and then pay for storage. Storage is definitely cheaper than renting out a whole place, but yeah, I'm gonna stick with snowbirding for me. So guys, I'm curious, which way would be best for you? What is more attractive to you? Slow travel or snowbird? There's really no wrong or right answer. But if you want to share, please feel free to do that. And then, of course, please feel free to share this amongst your friends. Remember, each one reach one, teach one. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.